Good evening. My name is Jenny Godley, and I'm a sociologist based at the University of Calgary. Tonight, I'm planning to talk about two sociological topics, demographic change and discrimination, in relation to the theme menopause at work. But I'd like to start with a personal story. About 7 years ago, in the fall of 2017, I was teaching an undergrad honors class on social science research methods. I had barely slept the night before, actually probably for weeks. I arrived early, I was eager to meet my students, and as I started setting up for class, I began sweating profusely, and then suddenly my legs and arms were just itching uncontrollably. So I hid behind the podium, scratching myself and fanning myself discreetly. Now, I'd planned that lecture to talk about sociological theories, something I should know something about. But suddenly, my mind went completely blank. I couldn't remember the name of a single sociologist, not even my PhD supervisor. So the lecture was a disaster. So that evening, I was sitting at home complaining about my terrible lecture, and I thought, I'm 49. I'm almost 50. Could these be symptoms of perimenopause? And I had not ever thought about that before. But I'll admit that thought was fleeting, because then I had to take my 9-year-old to his basketball practice, I had to visit my 89-year-old father-in-law, I had to walk the dog, and I had to prepare for work the next day. So I tell this personal story to illustrate two things. First of all, the impact, as we've already heard, of undiagnosed and untreated perimenopausal symptoms on women at work. And second, the multiple social responsibilities many working women bear. So turning to my first sociological topic, what's the relationship between demography and menopause at work? Well, women currently going through the menopausal transition, many of us here, were born approximately between 1960 and 1985. So we represent the late baby boomers, Generation X, and the older members of Generation Y. So what has changed for these generations? Well, over the past 50 years, there has been large-scale demographic change, which has impacted all three of these cohorts. We have later age at marriage, we have later childbearing, extended life expectancy. Meanwhile, these intersect with rising levels of female education. Clap for that. And rising female labor force participation rates. So we currently have the largest and most highly educated group of women between 40 and 65 ever in the workplace. In Canada, as we heard from the Menopause Foundation's great work, women over the age of 40 make up a quarter of the workforce. That's 5 million women. These women are at the height of their careers during the menopausal transition, and most report experiencing menopausal symptoms at work. These symptoms can lead to lost productivity, absenteeism, and women exiting the labor force. And as the Menopause Foundation of Canada study showed us, it's estimated that menopause-related issues cost the Canadian economy $3.5 billion annually. And I wasn't going to repeat that, but then I thought that's worth repeating. So, thinking about gender equality at work, could menopause be a hidden factor that's contributing to the leaky leadership pipeline or the glass ceiling effect, things we love to study? Indeed, more research is needed. Now I'm going to turn to my second sociological topic, which is the relationship between discrimination and menopause at work. Women suffer from age discrimination disproportionately compared to men, and working women suffer the most. My own research using nationally representative survey data collected in 2013 shows that women are 50% more likely than men to experience ageism. Women over the age of 50 in Canada report experiencing ageism twice as often as men. More recent national data that we're now looking at from 2022 indicates that Canadian women are still 50% more likely to experience ageism than men. And working women are twice as likely to report experiencing ageism as non-working women. In a recent survey we conducted of allied health workers in Alberta, women are 33% more likely than men to report age discrimination at work. Age discrimination directed at working women also often intersects with the stigma surrounding menopause. So what can be done to address the dual impacts of demographic change and discrimination on working women? First, organizations and employers can implement changes. such as the changes that were suggested and have been suggested by the Menopause Foundation of Canada. So just some quick examples. Education and training for employees and managers on how menopause impacts health. This education, I believe, should focus on reducing the stigma surrounding menopause. Second, creating a comfortable work environment with very simple things like good ventilation and flexible uniform policies. Third, normalizing flexible work arrangements, which we know can work. We did it during COVID. And then finally, supporting menopausal health care, including physical and mental health, and giving assistance with caregiving responsibilities. And as was mentioned, some Canadian companies have already implemented some of these changes. And I believe we need to research these interventions and see how well they work. But organizational change is not enough. We also need policy changes. Here we can look to England as an example. In 2022, the British Parliamentary Committee report, Menopause in the Workplace, led to reforms in both healthcare and employment law. And this is where we need to go. Menopause at work is both an economic and a public health issue. In Canada, we need to campaign for similar reforms while acknowledging the diversity of women's menopausal experiences. Intersectionality matters here. Race, ethnicity, indigeneity, socioeconomic status, immigration, and disability all shape how individuals experience menopause, and these need to be factored into policy discussions. So I'd like to end with another story from my workplace. This one is much more positive. Last week, I attended the launch of a new research study at the University of Calgary called Momentum. This project will follow a cohort of women currently aged 40 to 65 throughout the menopausal transition and examine their experiences in terms of health, emotional health, physical health, their experiences at work, their relationships, everything. It is the first study of its kind in Canada, and it's led by 11 female researchers, world-class researchers in the Faculty of Kinesiology. And I'm proud to call them my colleagues. Projects like this will lay the foundation for policy changes that will enable future generations of women to thrive at work all the way through the menopausal transition. Thank you.